Welcome to the Ignite You podcast.
We're two bros journey into all things spirituality and human transformation.
Let's get it. Cheers, brother.
Cheers, my man.
I thought you were going to say something else
you
after
my
that,
man?
and I was like, that's not good.
What did you think I was going to say?
Not going to say it.
Okay.
But I am your man.
Because you're my brother.
Yes.
Because this is community. How many people does it take to make up a community?
Well, I got like 10 people in my head. So do all those people count?
You're a community alone.
I'm a community of unity.
There it is. I was hoping.
Yeah. Just tossed it up.
Community.
Thanks, Ryan.
Cool. What's going on in your world, Cam?
Well, you know, quite a bit. Lots of work. But it is challenge time right now, which is really cool.
We're in the challenge.
We are in the challenge of life and also running a challenge.
Change the Story Challenge, which we did an episode 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're on day 2, and it's always so amazing to witness people leaning in the way that they lean in. It's pretty spectacular.
It's actually amazing because it's an online space, but the way people show up and feel safe in that is so cool. It's so cool.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
So I cried today.
You did.
Mm-hmm. I cried tears of joy and appreciation. No, in all realness too. I really did, and I haven't had a joyous cry like that in a while. And
Yeah.
I had a friend who sent me a video of his wedding. Shout out Sachin and Maxine for your beautiful union. He sent me a video. They got married in London, I think. Somewhere in England.
Sounds
I'm
right.
assuming it's London. And I couldn't make it. And so they sent a video just to kind of recap to show all the magic. And Sachin is a brother of mine. He's a beautiful, beautiful soul doing some magical, magical work for the world. And him and I were actually in a men's group together when he met Maxine, which was probably, I would say, going on 5 years ago, something along those lines. And it's been so cool to watch them evolve, watch them navigate life triggers, and really stay in love and just really show up for one another. And when I watched the video, it was just such a beautiful representation of two people. You know, they had a small, modest wedding, and it was so impactful, so powerful, and they did it exactly how they wanted to do it. And it just felt like such a beautiful representation of their love and their connection. And so it gave me the warm and fuzzies today.
Oh, love, man.
I love love.
That's when I saw that and you actually updated me on that. It was like 2 hours ago. It's like, oh, we should do an episode on love because that's so damn good. Mm-hmm. And it's so alive for both of us right now. Mm-hmm. And you just love love.
Gotta love love. So we will be doing an episode on love.
We will.
We've got a special episode planned for that.
Yeah, we're going to have a guest on for that.
We are.
Special guest.
A special guest on for that. So we're going to postpone because we haven't started bringing on guests yet. But this is our 22nd episode. Deuce.
Yeah, is it for sure?
Yes.
Okay.
Not for sure. 98%.
It could be 23rd.
It could be 23rd. I lose track sometimes when we're recording these, but I'm quite confident this is deuce.
Okay. Deuce. 2 deuces.
Yeah. Or deuce 3.
Deuce
Either way.
3.
Deuce trace. Deuce trace.
Could be deuce trace or deuce. And that's okay. But today, it's community. Today's all about community. And it's really alive for many reasons, but in particular, because of what somebody in the challenge actually brought up today, which was feeling like an alien in their current community and not actually having the people around that person, around her, I can say her, around her.
No, you can't. No,
I can't
she's a
actually
woman.
identify that she's
Breaching
a woman.
confidentiality.
I felt like I couldn't for some reason.
Not.
You said she.
Oh,
She's not a her.
she's not a her.
Oops. But she was talking about that, how she felt like an alien in her community. She felt an outcast of her space. And she was wondering about that. And we're like, oh, wow, we've heard this time and time again of people working with us. Any client I've ever worked with has had some aspect of feeling separate from a community, or they're evolving in relation with me while I'm in that coaching dynamic. And they're like, fuck, how do I spend time with people? All the people that I spend time with are now doing things I used to do. They're not doing things I do now, and they're not evolving with me. What do I do? How do I find community?
Yeah.
And I know you have many experiences with this as well, but it's so alive for both of us. We're like, why don't we talk about that? Why don't we talk about practical side of what it looks like to create community, what it looks like to cultivate that, what it looks like to be magnetic,
Yeah.
and what it looks like to actually bring people in and start building that confidence in yourself. It's cool.
Absolutely beautiful. And I love the words you're sharing.
Good words.
I just can't get over the fact that I wasn't done speaking about guests before Ryan went into some epic shit.
About guests? Oh.
I was saying deuce, trace.
Oh, I thought we were
I was going to
done.
start talking about guests.
Guests will come. Are you going to share
We
the
have
dates?
a minimum 15, 20 minutes of banter before every episode.
20 minutes!
Sometimes 30.
Never have we ever.
No, I'm okay. I just had to circle it back around.
But what are you going to say about guests?
No, I was just going to say we're going to have some.
You did.
As we evolve. But no, I'm throwing a wrench in the gears.
Good.
Okay,
Perfect.
we're playful.
Perfect.
Just ruining your
I said
flow.
too many good words.
It was so funny in one of our last episodes. You know, Ryan's going to share it in our stories. He was talking about being a sacred slut, and he's actually going to share some wisdom after dropping the term sacred slut, and then I just throw in this topic of a man whore, and it just totally ruined the sacredness of all sluttiness. So, anyways, but I'm not trying to do that again. What you just said.
I know.
What you just said is exactly what this episode's about, and I need to be seen. I need to be heard.
Yeah, so we can always banter more.
We can.
And we can go back and forth.
We can.
We don't have to segregate the banter.
No, never. We would never do that.
This is an anti-segregation episode.
This is a unification episode. A unification of the nation.
Which nation?
All of them.
All the nation.
Yeah. What you're saying is extremely important.
Okay.
And I think everybody on the spiritual path can resonate with this, with the fact that there's always some point on the journey where we really start to feel isolated. We start to feel like that alien. And we talked about this today in the challenge, where when you start to evolve and you start to shift and you start to change, most people that are stuck in their patterns and programs are going to try and pull you back into your old ways of being, because that's how these patterns and programs live. One thing that happens when they realize they can't pull you back into your old ways of being is they isolate you. They don't want to spend time with you. And predominantly this happens subconsciously, I think. Yeah. And that can be very challenging for a lot of people. That can be very, very lonely for a lot of people. I know when I started the spiritual path and really changed my friends and my social circles, my career, all these different things, I felt very alone. I felt very isolated. And it's kind of, I guess, the physical representation or manifestation of kind of dropping a bomb on your life. Is your social circles evaporate and you can feel like an alien. You can feel very ostracized. You can feel very lonely.
Yeah. There's, of course, the positive side of doing the work, showing up, going into these practices, having your routines. But the shadow side of it is how isolating it can feel, how alone it can feel, how you don't feel like you can share with anybody really what's going on in your world. You feel like you have to filter out what you're saying, and then you start resenting. Like, I know I went through this and I was like, you're not doing the thing. I kind of resent you. Family, close friends that I grew up with. I'm like, why are you still drinking? Like, what? That's why are you doing that? You know how bad, blah, 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 blah. Like, go down the rabbit hole of that. And then so I'm living in that. I'm living in my judgment of them because it's my judgment. It's in me. And I'm projecting onto them. So there's that shadow side of, you know, self-improvement, which seems so light and like, yeah, fucking improving myself and moving myself away from others.
Yes.
And pulling myself away.
Yes.
Which can be fucking difficult.
100%. And I could not agree more. And that judgment is then felt by these other people who ultimately then start to judge your practices and your routines and your rituals. And you start really playing tug of war on reality, on whose reality is more valid, which ultimately ends up in some form of relationship dissolution or isolation or breakups, all these different things. And, you know, it's wild to watch the transformational journey in, you know, our community as well as with our clients, in that generally when we start the journey, it's really exciting. Yeah. We start unlocking levels of awareness. We start to really go, oh my goodness, I can see this. I can catch this. I can feel this way. Oh my goodness, breath work helps so much. Meditation helps so much. How come I was never taught this stuff when I was younger? And then, bam, reality hits where you have to pull the reins back on your life that is moving in one direction to totally move in another direction. And that's like slamming on the brakes on a freight train. Everything starts to go boom, 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 and like and be faced with a lot of resistance. And this is where people start really going, oh no, am I really ready for this?
Yeah. And that's, so your partner, the work that you've been in for years, your commitment around you, and you're like, I'm a different human being. How can I stick to this? Then what can occur is going back into the pattern by sacrificing. Like, oh, I mean, I should go out with my friend. I mean, I should do that. Everyone's doing it. I'm weird. Like, what am I doing? Like, that doesn't, that's weird. Like, shake that off. Go back into the pattern. Sacrifice slowly, and then people will go back into the pattern. I know you've seen it over and over again. I've seen it over and over again with people that I've worked with. And then resurface, come back. Round 2. You come back into it with a little bit more awareness.
Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, seriously. A little bit more awareness. And this is just what can tend to happen. Of course, there's many different paths of possibility here. But I've seen this over and over again. We have more awareness this time. You're coming back a little bit stronger, but then there's more doubt because you failed once, moving towards that. I don't know if you've noticed this as well, but this is a big thing. And it can be round 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like, keep going, right? There's so many rounds of this. Of like, oh, God, no, I'm back in the pattern. Oh, I'm going back in the pattern.
Yeah.
And moving back and forth. But that is what transformation really looks like, as you talked about over and over again. It is these peaks and valleys.
That bounce back.
It's not just...
This is really an interesting topic to go into as well, because there's an aspect of this that's a little hard to conceptualize, and that is that transformation can traumatize you. If you go into the world of transformation unequipped with the right tools, practices, and people, a transformational journey can do a lot of bad, challenging things to your life. Yeah. This is why having a coach, having a community, having a partner, having a friend, having people in your corner that are really willing to hold you through the unavoidable discomforts of true transformation is not something that's just nice to have. It's an essential component of the journey.
Yeah, and I love how you were saying it earlier. As a facilitator, you were talking about this. You can only bring people so far if they don't have people that are holding them. If you can't hold them continuously after the practice and they don't have people there, you can't bring them to the depths. You can't actually go all the way in, because if they realize something, they're, oh, that's there's gonna be some integration massively. It's not just that moment. All right, cool, I found it and I moved it. It's done. You have to have people to hold you. You have to have that community there to come together with you. I mean, it's like if you're going to go jump off a massive cliff, you shouldn't go to that cliff alone.
Nope.
You should go with some homies, check how deep it is. You have people there with you just in case something goes wrong, goes sideways. You have those people to support you. It's the same way with the healing journey, the same way with the breathwork journey. You want to have those people around you during the fact and after the fact. If something goes wrong, they're there to support you. I love how you frame that.
Yeah, sure.
Important.
After serving enough breath work, you see people, right? And this is something I ask a lot of people before our sessions is, do you have support outside of this?
Okay, I was going to ask how you do it. It's a verbal kind
I
of...
check in with them before the session. And in my opinion, your body generally knows how deep to push you. There are people with exceptions that will go too deep. Yeah. And that's something that must be navigated very carefully. However, I always ask them, how supported are you after this? And I say, do you have time set up for you to just chill? Or are you going right into taking care of your kids after this session? How much time have you allocated and how many people do you have in your corner to support you if something comes up? Because in transformation, if you're working with a coach, that session's an hour, 2 hours. Sometimes the breathwork journey might be 3-4 hours, depends on whether it's a workshop or if it's a one-on-one. The things that surface can last weeks. And as practitioners, we can't come home with you and hold you for 2 weeks because we also have lives, our own work, different things to do. So very important to know that if you are committed to the practice of transformation and really diving into your journey, it's imperative that you surround yourself with people that are going to be able to hold you and that have the capacity to hold you.
When you're talking about being held, that is one of the most revolutionary things for me in community, because I'm used to being the one that's kind of leading the community and being in that space. I know you are too. But to be held in space, in community, is essential to actually having a trusting space, to having a space to feel safe, a space to feel like you can express in. And what you're talking about is actually identifying that before going into something massive like this, a breathwork journey, a DMT journey, ayahuasca, whatever it is, like a plant medicine or other medicine, or just transformational event. It is so valuable to check in with the people around you to see if you can be held, to see it, and ask for that support, because actually a lot of the times people want to support people. Most of the time, they just need the invitation. Most everybody does want to support. I believe this. I believe everybody wants to support. They just need the opportunity to do it. So whether you think your community is for you or not currently, if you asked for that support beforehand, I bet to some extent you would have a person, two, or a few that are willing to show up for you after the fact to hold you. But you need to be willing to ask to be held. And that's been my journey for the longest time. Actually, only in the past couple of years, maybe the past 2 years, I've been able to ask people to hold me and literally been able to verbalize, hey, can you hold me right now in this? And I've asked you a few times now, and you've asked me. But because there's just stereotypes around being a man, a tall person, a bigger person, where it's like, oh, no, you're held. I know you get this too.
For sure.
And to ask to be held has been revolutionary. I've had community my whole life. I've been able to cultivate community, which we'll talk about strategies for that. We'll go into the fucking goodies of that. But in reality, I never really had equality with my people. I never really brought myself in so vulnerably where I'm like, hey, I could be held right now. I want that from you. And didn't really bring that forward. So it was kind of this facade of a community. It wasn't really like, hey, I'm with you. Like I was like, oh, I'm the holder. I got you guys. Like we're all good. I'll guide you. I'm fucking, let's go. And that's one role, but that's not all of me. And when we take on a role, it kind of f***s us over because we go into that.
For sure.
So when we're trying to create community, that's why I'm saying this, being vulnerable in that space, being willy.
Be Willie.
Be free Willy.
Free Willy.
Being willing to ask.
I went Willy Wonka.
Okay. I was going free Willy.
Okay.
You know? And be.
I just saw Oompa Loompas.
Be an Oompa Loompa. Oompa Loompa.
Doop-a-doo-doo.
You know the song.
Yeah, I know the song. I ate the chocolate.
Did you?
No. I wish I
You're
did.
a liar. Don't lie in community. Like Cam. Do it too. So, being willing to be vulnerable, being willing to ask to be held, and you'd be surprised what comes up for people around you. Instead of just avoiding them and be like, oh, they have these patterns, they're not going to do it. Asking them, hey, can you hold me in this for a second? Or asking to hold them, just being open about that space. You'd be surprised on what comes through. Like, oh, I actually didn't know this about you. Or, oh, I have that same shit. I just didn't know we can talk about this.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah.
The similarities, even if you see that there's nothing that you relate to, there's relatability to every human on this earth.
100%.
To me. Every single person you can relate to on some level.
Yep.
So, going back to...
Well, no, I love this. And a cautionary perspective as well.
For sure.
People will only be able to hold you as deeply as they can hold themselves.
Facts.
Yes, it's important to ask for support. Yes, it's important to be held by the people around you. And it's also very important to not assume that that person is equipped to hold you in your deepest, darkest shit.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I think, make this mistake with things like an ayahuasca journey where they're like, my partner is happy I'm improving myself. This is great. They can hold me. And you go away for a week or 2 weeks, whatever that is, and you come back and you have a completely different perspective of reality. And maybe that partner hasn't gone into these realms, doesn't understand it, and you scare them. And then you scare them, they pull away, re-traumatization happens.
Yes.
Very important to be cautious of this. And I love that Ryan brought this up because it's almost like the desire to find new community because there's a feeling of isolation is your intuition telling you that you're starting to go deeper into your journey and you need people around you that are going to be able to hold those deeper aspects of your journey. So there's an intuitive hit coming through in a lot of these feelings of sadness and isolation that might be telling you a lot about this cautionary message I'm giving you now, that the people around you might not have the capacity to hold what you're coming up against.
Yes.
And that's why, as we get into this, it's very important to utilize these strategies and really surround yourself with people that get it.
Yeah. Yes. Discernment, again, this week. Discernment comes into play. It always does. We lead with that. We lead with discerning in our space. When I was speaking about relatability, I love your cautionary thing there because it is so true. Yeah, people's capacity only goes so far, and we can feel that. We can tune into that. And we don't want to avoid the people we're around and say, we're isolated. They can't do anything for me. They're against me. So it's this kind of like this dance, this play.
Dance, for sure.
But being aware when it's these deeper healing experiences to not put that onto people that can't hold that. Yes.
And it's not even their fault, right?
No.
And I think it's very important, like you said, to have these people and to just have expectations where maybe if your partner doesn't understand trauma, you can still ask to have your back rubbed. You can still ask to have a bath drawn for you. You can still ask them to make you dinner. You can still ask to be supported in ways they know how to support. So that's super important. The key to that is the expectations of what they can hold and just thinking that they will be able to understand what you've been through, which is very hard for people that aren't going into the same levels that you are.
Yeah, when that happens, even in communities now, people just start throwing it out, and you're like, this is not the place for that. This is like, you're just saying things that you experienced. So there's that as well. There's just the social awareness of, okay, who am I with right now? Is this a safe space? Can I be with these people? Will it actually serve for me to share this? Can I, again, we're going to always come back to sex. Can I have foreplay here a little bit and kind of test the waters and see? I'm not just going to go in and like dive into put like everything into that. It's playing with it a little bit, like seeing who you're with and the energy of that space, testing that. We're going to talk about bridging communities and like finding community through bridging, but it is that kind of play first. It's not just like, here's all my take it.
Yeah.
Can you handle it? Can you handle me?
Please handle it.
Like,
Please help me.
No, that's not the energy. It's like, have some awareness around
but
that.
That
does
happens,
happen.
man. It really does.
Because people are bottling it up.
Totally.
And like, I have all the shit. And,
then they're like, I did this thing and this happened and I crossed dimensions and I spoke to an alien and then the person's like, oh my God, my person's gone insane.
Yeah.
Or a parent or whatever.
And it pushes people away. And it's not to say this is not full expression. Full expression is feeling all of that and bringing that forward and expressing it. But the verbalization of your experiences to put onto people to help you when it wasn't actually there in the first place. It didn't say, oh, I'd love to support you. You didn't ask them, hey, can you support me with this? You just dumped it on. You said, that's how
I like that.
That's how you
That's
For me,
a
in
little
this space,
dump. You just
I don't
dumped
know.
it on.
I could have did that, but...
You could have, but that's more like a low five?
Well, no. Dump.
Oh, gross, man.
I know that I didn't do that.
Okay.
I said I could have.
You could have.
That was in theory.
That's cool, but you could have also gone like dump.
Okay.
Anyways.
Do you digress?
Wisdom.
Wisdom.
Hand movements.
Truly embodied.
Expression.
That's embodied movement.
That is embodied movement.
Yeah.
I really agree with that deeply. And this is kind of why Marianne Williamson in A Return to Love, we've referenced this book a couple times now, says that when she's speaking to her clients that aren't super deep on the spiritual path, she doesn't tell them that angels told her this information. She says, my intuition told me this. Yeah. It's not a little blue alien popped up on the table and said that you need this. It's even if that's what the clairvoyant saw, that's not what you say to someone who's new to the work, right? So it's understanding that. I think that's really, really valuable information.
It is, yeah. 'Cause you have crazy experiences. I know I did experiences, so many. Like we can just.
I'm having one right now.
I'm not in or of my body, but we've had so many experiences.
It's in this cappuccino.
That we just, depending on who we're talking to, they get a piece of that experience. It doesn't mean we're holding back ourselves. We're just sharing what feels to make sense in that moment, and you can feel it. Like with you, like when we first met, we started talking, we're talking about the gym. Yeah. We're talking about rock climbing. We're talking about these certain things because that's where we met. That was the environment we met in.
And then we went right to aliens.
Straight to aliens.
Rock climbing to aliens.
Well, okay, so we met in the environment. This is the bridge.
Okay, you tell the story.
I'll tell the story. We met there in that environment. We're like, oh, cool. We both like athletic things. Cool. You're fit. I'm fit. Yay. Okay,
it's not
awesome.
Rockets.
That's what we said. It's not rockets. Sports. Without context, it sounds weird. We met in an environment where it's like, okay, we both like to move our bodies. Awesome. Let's meet up again soon. Sweet. Bros. Then there was another opportunity to have another adventure together where it deepened. We're like, oh, you read Surrender Experiment. You read this. This is what actually happened. Like, oh, so you're into this world. Oh, you're into this world. Oh, it's progressively deepening into realizing our layers as human beings and like, oh, shit, you're into some cosmic things. Oh, we're up at a waterfall. I'm hallucinating because of this experience. I'm just so high on life right now and seeing this, that, this, going into and sharing our experiences. You almost passing out on a boat doing breath work, just like leaving your body. This happened.
I almost fell into the rudder.
I just fell into the rudder and died because he's elevating on breath work, and we're like, oh, fuck, you do that too? And so the deepening, but if we would have talked about that first, like, oh, I leave my body doing breath work and I'm into all this cosmic shit right there in the rock climbing gym, it would have been weird. I mean, for us, it would have worked because it
and we were in Bali.
It would have been fitting. There was environment. But for most people, that's not what we do. And we were discerning of that. I wouldn't have just dropped that at all. I was like, you're probably a bro. You look like a bro. Okay, we'll relate in that arena. And then we noticed it started bridging more and more after spending time together. We realized these layers after going into it. So bridging the worlds by something where there's an overlap and then deepening through that. I think that's been the biggest part for me of creating community. It's going to these different environments, meeting people I vibe with, and then realizing, you want to do this thing too? You want to come surf also? Oh, okay, you read that book before? Oh, you've done that? Okay. And then realizing that the connection can continue to deepen through these paths, and now we're best friends forever. So,
like, I'm trying to listen to what you're saying, but my heart's so open now after you share our story. I'm so
love you, bro.
I'm so grateful. That's so nice.
Truly.
That's it. It's an evolution.
Yeah.
It's an evolution. And I think a lot of people on this path can be like, hello, my name is so-and-so, and I did ayahuasca last night and spoke to my higher self. And you're just kind of like, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Cheers. And I think you're capturing it beautiful. It's an evolution. It's getting to know people layer by layer.
It's not being needy. This is a big difference. Because if we would have needed community at that time, we're like, oh, I need a good friend, and like I need that. It would have felt completely different. You'd be like, it's kind of off. Like you need me right now, and like we just met, and like you're saying all these things, but it's like, no, this feels good. Like I love connecting with you, feels good. Let's do another thing, awesome. But bringing that in, there's a difference between neediness and seeking it, and it's felt. It's like this energetic shift when you meet somebody like, oh, I feel like I need to tell you everything. I need to get this off my chest, and I need you to hold me and be my friend right away. Even if it's not, that's a lot. But
Ryan just couldn't see when I was smelling his hair every time you left.
I couldn't see. He took a strand.
See you later.
See you soon.
Bye. See you soon.
I have your scent now.
I miss you.
I didn't know that. If I would have known that, we wouldn't have.
So if you're gonna be creepy, be sneaky. You sneaky little creep.
But truly, dude, it's felt. It's felt when somebody like needs you in that moment.
Definitely.
It's like, hey, we just met. Like, let's start to connect. Let's be in that space, and that comes with cultivating true courage, cultivating true confidence in yourself, and that worthiness in yourself to not like need to like prove it and like get it from somebody else.
Boom, hitting the worth nail on the head. Shebang. Shebang, shebang. That's the sound a hammer makes.
She moves.
Either a hammer or Ricky Martin. We went there.
Hammer time?
That's it.
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of. I'm not a professional beatboxer.
Wow, I like how the banter's getting in between. We have like, this is cool. We didn't do it at the beginning.
Slivers of banter.
Let us know how you like this, actually, because usually we do the banter.
You're like, I was feeling so emotional, and then you said something dumb.
And then I'm like, I'm going in, I'm crying, and they're just like, duh, over there, and it's cool. It's cool.
It's cool.
And we're going in between that. We're sandwiching it with little banter bread.
So, anyways, on that note, I like that. Banter bread. It's great. Never heard that before. Coined it here. Probably a reason why I haven't heard it before, but still, I appreciate you.
Thank you.
I want to first celebrate you.
Who? Who's it?
I don't know. Who are you? For staying this long on this episode, because this is definitely one that we're taking you on a bit of a journey for. But you're an early adopter. If you are feeling alone, if you are feeling lonely, if you are feeling like you have a lack of community, yes, it means you're probably being invited into something. And it also means that you are breaking free from the norm. You are breaking out of the status quo. You are doing things differently. And I just want to say that takes courage. That takes strength. That takes conviction. That takes a lot of commitment, because most people on this path had to do that at some point. And a lot of people not on this path just don't have the courage to break free from their current social circles, to be alone and follow their intuition, to surround themselves with other people. I'm from Vancouver, BC, Canada. One of the cliquiest places I've ever met. One of the most cliquey places I've ever met. One of the cliquiest places you can go in the world. And it's very hard to leave those groups. It really, truly is. And when you do, it's also twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times as hard to find new ones. Especially if it's cliquey. It's really hard, even in the spiritual community. So just know this. You are a warrior. You are courageous. And you are leading the way in transforming human consciousness. And I think that's very important to remember. And so we're going to get into strategies that can support you as we move forward with this episode. But just know that. Acknowledge yourself in this moment for that. Because you are different, and what you're doing is not easy.
Yeah. That's why we're talking about it today. It's one of the hardest things to do, because what we all want, we're social creatures. We want to be liked. We want to be loved. We want to be accepted. So to go against where that comes easiest and to seek out what we know is actually going to serve us most, that's fucking difficult.
Very difficult.
Because if we see it around and say, oh, I can be accepted if I just go out and drink with the friends, or if I just go, party with that, or I just do this, and, it's not fully aligned, but, I'll do it anyways just because it's like, it's there. I want to be accepted. I want to be loved. You change that into actually going into finding your community and leaning into the spaces that are going to be uncomfortable, that Cam and I have many examples of us doing ourselves. We're like, ooh, this is edgy. Like, this is edgy, but this is where I want to end up being. I want to feel comfortable in this space. I want to feel comfortable in ecstatic dance, but it's a fucking edge. Okay, I'm going to fucking do it. I'm going to lean into it. I'm going to go to that space because I want to be there one day. So I'm going to do it now. And so to be able to do that, that's so challenging, but is it worth it? Like, seriously. And I see what you're saying. It's like, really honor and appreciate where you are now, whether you're in the place of already having a great community and you're just wanting to level that up or celebrate what you currently have, or if you're ready to get to that next community where, like, it's not serving me now. It isn't. It just isn't. I know what's possible. I know there's more out there for me and there's a better community there. Honor that. Celebrate that. Like, where you are right now is fucking beautiful. And we're going to talk about what it looks like to actually start going into that space, what we did and what we continue to do and support people in, as we are people that constantly have changed environments throughout our lives, have traveled around the world, different places, and built communities all over the world. And now it seems like we have these different hubs around the world, with online community as well, but different hubs in physical form that we can go to. And lifers, like lifers, people that can go to, like, you feel like family, like in Bali, in New York, in Florida, in Vancouver now, even just from you, in Seattle, and California, like all over, there's these hubs, all over Costa Rica now. And it truly does feel like that. There's this chosen family hubs that I know I'm welcome in. And connected in. That feels so fucking good. And I remember when I didn't have that. Remember when I didn't have that experience. I was limiting myself to the community I was in. I was in that community block that I put myself in. My community comfort zone, as I talk about. So yeah, let's get into it.
For sure. And so the first thing I'd like to mention is that it can be challenging at the beginning to find the motivation to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
If you're watching this or listening to this, you're obviously interested in transformation. You're obviously interested in becoming the best version of yourself. Other than the fact that you have great taste on what podcast you listen to, you're obviously someone that's curious and that wants to transform. There is nothing more powerful. There's no breathwork journey, no plant medicine, no meditation technique. There is nothing more powerful than collective consciousness. And what collective consciousness is meeting people like you with similar intentions, similar trajectories, similar values that can charge each other's missions up. And so if you're looking for that motivation to go out and meet your people, because let me tell you, in between those people, you're going to meet some people you don't vibe with. This is kind of the way it goes. Remember that those people are going to be the ingredients for you becoming the expression of your highest self and for you to ultimately truly ignite your soul. So follow that.
Yeah. Oh, it made me think of the quote from Into the Wild. How the book ends, how the movie ends is the same. Happiness is only real when shared.
Yes.
And I fucking love that. It was the last thing he wrote before he died in the wild, running away from society, avoiding society, and saying the only way for me to really connect to myself is to go and leave into the wild. His final realization was happiness is only real when shared. So no matter where you are on the spectrum, we need community. We are meant to connect with people. We are built for true, authentic connection. So I love what you're saying here. Collective consciousness, man, it's the ultimate freedom. When we find that space and we find those people, that is freedom. That is liberation. That is love to the fullest extent. Looking for a partner and finding a partner is one thing, but finding a community of people, your communion, your family, your chosen family. I love talking about it in that way because it really feels like that. That's where liberation happens. So a little side tangent there, but the bridges, I think we should talk about as well. That is what I mentioned with Cam and I, but that is one of the most potent ways to start exploring and navigating that community that you want. Because so often we want to just like get it. I just want the community. I want it now. Let's do it. But most times we need to actually create a bridge into that space and see where are people at now? Where are the people at now that I want to connect with? And how can I start, whether you want to cultivate and facilitate a space, which is one way, or you just want to enter and be in a space with people that are doing it, you're probably going to need a bridge of sorts. An example we have here in Nosara is ecstatic dance. It's a beautiful bridge for us because by the time we came here, it's already something we've done, but there's some free-spirited motherfuckers at ecstatic dance.
For sure.
And it's amazing. And it's so beautiful, so deep, and it was wonderful. And it isn't exactly the extent of intensity that you and I bring in space and in events we run, but it'll have those people there. A few people that go to those experiences will want to come to the event that we run and the experiences that we host, and will deepen into that because they have that openness, they have that expression. Those values are set in that space. So it's a bridge from that space to the intensity of a breathwork journey of people that are willing to go into some cosmic shit and like, I'm ready to get fully activated. I'm not holding back an ounce of my being. But it takes that space first. And that's an example of a bridge. So many examples.
For sure.
But that is one where it's like, okay, it's already there. We can go into that. I feel pretty good in that space. I feel good. We can always evolve in that. And I know there'll be some people there that like I'll really vibe with. There'll be some people where I won't really vibe with, and that's fine. Like,
for sure.
Most people that go there I probably won't hang out with outside of dance. Those are like people I go dance with. But there's a few people. We've met some of our best friends in this community at ecstatic dance.
For sure.
We met both our partners at ecstatic dance.
Definitely.
So it happens because we know that was a container. It may not be the end container where community happens, but it's a bridge to that.
And to take it out of the conscious world even a little bit more, when I got to Nosara, I've been on this path for a while, and I've been in some pretty deep communities for a while now. When I got here, I didn't know anybody. My friend that invited me here, who saw I was in Costa Rica on my Instagram, left like the day after I got here. He's like, "Oh yeah, great camp, see you later." And I was like, "Well, I love this place, but I don't know anybody here." I went to parties. I went to environments that would not be exactly what I wanted to do, but I didn't engage in the way that I used to. I didn't go there and get drunk. I didn't go there and go for the people that I felt comfortable talking to. The first party I went to, I sat down with our friend Benye. And so there was all these different people hanging out, and I saw this one guy sitting in the pool alone looking out at the sunset. Everybody else was busy socializing and running around, and it was all kind of the hustle and bustle. And that's where I felt most comfortable. So I was like, I could go socialize with any of these people, talk shit, do whatever, right? Talk about my life, da da da. And I went, no, I'm gonna go sit next to that guy because he looks like he's on a different tip. And sure enough, Benye's on a very different tip. We love you, Benye, if you're listening to this. But I sat down and I said hello. And the first thing he does is he looks at me and he says, "Thank you for giving me your presence in this moment." Something along those lines. I can't remember exactly what it was. Yeah. And then he's like, "Do you want to watch the sunset with me?" Kind of vibe. And I'm like, all right. And so we sat there in total silence and just watched the sunset. And then we started talking about life and the experience. And Benye ended up becoming one of my first friends here. In that, Sonia came up. I met Sonia for the first time. I met Chase for the first time. All these people kind of started coming around and were attracted to kind of what we were doing.
Yeah.
And it was such a powerful reminder because I got invited to this party by two German 21-year-old girls that were like, come to this party, we'll have some drinks. And I was like, oh my goodness, I just got to know Sarah. What the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
This is not the vibe. But I said, you know what? I don't know anybody. I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
And I ended up meeting some people that I met Chase, one of our best friends here at that party. Mm-hmm. That bridge was a very different bridge than what I was expecting. So find your relative bridges and go to those bridges, but change the way that you act. Go for people that you might not necessarily feel like you would relate to. And connect with those people.
Yeah, and that's to what we were saying earlier. It's not your community comfort zone of where you just go do the thing. It's going to put you back in that same place. You're like, no, I'm looking for a new community here.
Yes.
I'm looking for people that are deeply connected here. You look at someone like Beignet, he's just really appreciating nature. He doesn't have a drink in his hand.
Totally.
He's just witnessing that. What's going on there?
Yes.
And then you'll notice whatever happens there, something beautiful will happen because you either get insight into that person or an experience, but you either way took the initiative to go to somebody different than the norm. So whether or not whatever happens in that scenario is fine. You had the courage to go into that and be like, okay, I'll meet with this person because he seems like he's at a different frequency. And Beignet most definitely is.
And you just hit the nail on the head.
I hit the nail on the head so much.
And you're humble.
I'm so humble.
It takes courage. In order to find new people and remove yourself from your current circumstances, you got to be a warrior. You got to be courageous and you got to step outside your comfort zone. It's as simple as that. Whether that means going to a party and approaching different people, whether that means going to a retreat that you think looks like too much for you, whether that means going to a yoga class and approaching the teacher who you know is going to be into some stuff and asking if they want to get a smoothie next week. Or going to an ecstatic dance if you've never been before, going to a kirtan, Googling all these things near your house, going online, doing a challenge. There's so many prongs these days that can pull you into conscious communities. The one challenging factor is most people don't want to step into them alone because that's confronting. So it takes courage to say, you know what, I'm going to join this online challenge. I don't know anybody, and I'm going to reach out to people and I'm going to connect because I know that through our Change the Story challenge, we've got people in that community who have friends for life now.
Yes. And
had nobody before. And they found these connections and now they're coming to Costa Rica to our retreat together. They're hanging out. We've had people fly to each other now and connect across the world. They did that because they came into a space where nobody knew each other and they took the initiative to reach out and were courageous to step into a container that they knew nothing about.
That's it. There's honestly no excuse.
No.
Nowadays, there's really no excuse.
There isn't.
You can find it whether it's in person or online. It is available. It really truly is. No matter where you are in the world, it is available. It's just having that courage. And finding your edges and being able to just go into that edge. That's what Cam's talking about, edging. We love talking about edging on
Every
this podcast.
time you say, I'm just trying not to go into a sex joke.
I know. We love talking about edging here because that's where you find out what's possible for you. When you just go, oh. What, dude?
Nothing.
I'm just oh-ing.
Yeah, you're edging.
I'm oh-ing. That can mean anything.
It could, yeah, sure.
You're finding your edge in community. You're finding your edge in expression. You're finding your edge sexually. You're finding your edge by relating to people that you wouldn't otherwise. But you know is going to get you closer. Or at least you feel that way. And you're like, hey, I feel like that's going to be a place that I want to be in. I'm not ready for it yet, but I know I want to be there one day. So I'm going to push that edge right now. I'm going to go into that space. So that is huge, to be able to have that courage, to be able to start cultivating that courage and that real true inner confidence in yourself and start bringing that forward. I'd be curious from your perspective. I am curious. I said I would be, which is weird.
But you are right now.
No, I am right now. This isn't
cool.
This isn't theoretical. I am.
Yeah.
I'm curious For people that are wanting to cultivate that courage or that confidence in themselves, I imagine you've worked with clients around things like this. Like, where do you start? Because I know you and I are extroverted people by nature. That should have been acknowledged first and foremost in this episode. We're naturally extroverted people. We've had our own blocks. We've had our own things in life. But for the most part, we tend to be people that are
we put ourselves out there.
At that. So if you're not natural at it, I have some insights as well, but I would love to hear from you what you've worked with people on or what you feel is good ways to start doing that.
Yeah, it's baby steps.
Okay.
It's
crawling on the ground?
Yeah. It's exactly. Drooling.
Drool.
Yeah, it attracts people.
Okay.
It's going to a party with the intention of talking to one new person.
Yeah.
And saying, okay, I'm going to go to a party tonight and I'm going to make the effort to speak to one new person and ask them maybe a different question. Go to the party, say, what excites you about life? Ask somebody that question. You might get somebody that goes like, that's a really weird question. It might be really awkward. And guess what? You're going to realize you didn't die. Then what you're going to do next time is you go back, you maybe try and approach two people. It's finding that next edge. And we talk about this a lot. It's that stretch zone. What are you currently comfortable with? Maybe that's being completely alone or hanging out with your one friend. How do you find that next level? Maybe you approach one person with your friend, so you feel supported, but you might not otherwise do that. And you start talking to them. Maybe you've never gone to a restaurant by yourself because you're afraid to sit and look like a weirdo. Go out for dinner by yourself, sit and look like a weirdo, and do that enough until you're like, wow, I'm actually okay. So it's finding those little stretches, those little steps that you can take that start to remind you that you can put yourself out there socially and it's not going to go sideways. You know, Tim Ferriss had that one test where he said, I used to just go down and lie on the floor in the middle of a Starbucks for 10 minutes and not say anything and then get up and walk away. And he said, I did that because it would remind me that A, nobody cares after the fact, and B, it doesn't matter. Your life won't change in any way, shape, or form. So it's finding those little edges and those little things you can do to start pushing your boundary and start learning that you're going to be okay, which will result in more courage.
I love that. And for me, the example that I use as well and that I used was a version of that, these kind of micro edges within what's already available. So I did it with the people I already knew.
Beautiful.
I just asked some people around me some different questions.
Yep.
Some things that were a little different. I asked, how do you see me? Why are you friends with me?
Yeah.
Just to get insight and be like, wow, this person actually has a huge heart. Like what they said about me was actually beautiful. I did not know that they thought that about me.
Yes.
So then I was like, oh, this is what I think about you. Oh, this is what, you have more emotional capacity than I thought. I put you in a box and I wonder if you did the same for me. We never actually talked about these things. So it can look like Cam's saying, like these different environments and doing that, which is profound. And there are invitations all around you.
Sure.
You can be the person to ignite that. You can be the person to invite that. You can be the person to write that.
Bars, baby.
Write it. Rewrite that script, baby.
Rewrite that story would have been more appropriate.
Well, no, script.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Beautiful. So I'm going to call someone out right now.
Call me.
Not you.
Oh.
I guarantee you some of you are listening to this and you are saying that you just like being alone. And I guarantee that some people listening or watching this fall into a lone wolf mentality.
And why do you think that?
Because you're lying to yourself.
Yeah. But don't you have a piece? Didn't you
For
have a
sure.
piece of that? For
sure. And I'm not saying that there's not parts of us that need our solo time. I am one of those people. I love being by myself. However, when I'm by myself for too long, I get depressed. I get lonely. I get sad. I get anxious. My nervous system doesn't feel supported. And most of you listening to this know my story, but I was isolated from society for so long. So I became so comfortable being alone that it made me feel uncomfortable to be seen or held by other people. So your past has influenced you to thinking that you're a lone wolf or that you're better off alone. But that is a pattern in action. That is a manifestation of a belief or a situation that is not true, because every single human on the face of this earth needs to be held, needs community, needs people around them. It is ingrained in our nervous system. It's ingrained in our survival. It's ingrained in our emotional expression. It is ingrained in us. It's a part of us. We are animals. We are pack animals. We are not solo dolo lone wolves. We need our herd. We need our crew, because as we evolved, we aren't, well, I guess technically kind of we are now, but we're not these big teeth, big fanged apex predators that just survive on our own strength. We survive on our numbers. Yeah. We survive on the people that surround us. So stop kidding yourself.
Yeah, tribe mentality is ingrained in us. It's so true.
That's why it's a thing.
That's literally it. That's where it comes from. That's who we are. And I love that you bring this up, because you know this in yourself.
For sure.
You know this story.
100%.
Because you're like, I used to be inside of that. Mm-hmm. We are meant to be social. I never really had that experience, because you know my story a bit more, that I'm used to being the one that says yes. Mm-hmm. To an extent where there's more shadow that occurs there, because that's where I come from. That's my nature of being a people pleaser in that space. But that is the invitation here. To, if you see community as a North Star that you're seeking right now, saying yes is your gateway. Mm-hmm. That is the way to start pushing those edges. That is the way to start going to these new containers. That is the way to start finding and cultivating those relationships that are bringing you to where you want to go. You got to say yes. You got to lean into that. Mm-hmm. That's why community has come to me throughout my travels, throughout my experience, because I've constantly given space for that. That's been a priority, and it always is. I identify with somebody in community. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yeah, I love community. That's what I live for.
Yeah.
And so I say yes to that. Basically any opportunity, almost to a detriment at one point, and you can catch yourself on that. But if that is your intention, move with yes.
Yes.
Move with yes?
Yes.
Yes.
What do you think my immediate reaction was when those girls invited me to that party here? Of course. I'm 36 years old. I got two 21-year-old German women inviting me to a party. I was like, there's no way I'm going to go to this.
When you just say 36 and 221, that sounds good to most people. But
no,
also,
but for me,
but for where you are,
for me,
you're somebody who is in that
I'm
space.
not looking to, I'm not looking to party.
I know.
And most 21-year-olds, regardless of if they're women or men, they want to party. You know, that's the vibe. They're like, well, let's go to this party. My immediate reaction was, hell no, I'm not going to this thing. Why would I ever go to this?
And then you realize.
And then I went and I realized, oh, they're the youngest people here. There's actually a ton of people my age.
But why did you say yes in the first place?
Because it was literally, I had no other option.
And you were, more than anything else, top priority was community, right?
That's why I moved here.
Yeah, you're
was
like
to
literally
meet people.
Community.
But I understood the power of yes, because don't get me wrong, I could have just stayed home and meditated, chilled,
kept your energy,
kept my energy, done all those things, waited for the perfect opportunity to go out and meet people, but I didn't. Oh. I said, I'm going to go for it. There's people. And if it's very uncomfortable, I'll just leave.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And so what Ryan's saying here is so powerful. If you are looking to build community, you got to say yes. And coming from someone who used to tend to know a lot more, I can attest to how powerful this is for building friendships, for building community. It's so important.
Yes.
Yes.
It is. Okay. What else do you want to mention about that before we sign off? Is there anything else that feels valuable to cultivating the community you want?
I think the big one here that we've alluded to but haven't specifically said is it's up to you to approach others.
Yeah.
Especially for projectors.
Yes.
You wait for the invitation, and so many people are at a party like, I'm just waiting for the invitation, and
That's not the place to do it.
and you're like, I just know community because I'm a projector.
That's
You know what?
silly.
No, don't use your human design for this, okay? Your human design is not a default, all right? So if you're somebody that needs to wait for the invitation, this is a time where you need to shift that pattern, shift that story, and approach people. And just know that you're going to meet some weirdos.
Yeah.
You are. It's inevitable. You might bump into us.
I know.
And then be like, oh my God, I got to get out of here.
What I would say as well is gamify it. As much as you can, especially if you feel uncomfortable in these scenarios. I know I've done this, and I'm pretty sure you've done this too. The more you can gamify an experience that's uncomfortable, the more you actually start to feel comfortable in it. 'Cause you're like, oh, this is a game. This isn't high stakes. This is like, oh, whatever. Like, there's always another round. There's always another experience that I can go to. Like, next game. The more you can kind of make it a playful experience, like, oh, I'm going to go talk to that guy. I wonder what their story is. What's the weirdest question I could ask him? Like, what's going on in your world? And, like, actually be like, I wonder how much I can find out about this person. That's what I used to do. That was my game. And through that, I started really getting to know people. And they're like, you're a great conversationalist. And it's like, well, I'm literally just asking questions about you.
Totally.
And that's what happens. But the more you can gamify the experience, the more you can cultivate connection. Because you're starting to feel more comfortable in it. And it started as a very uncomfortable scenario, and you're like, oh, okay, I get to play here. Which, as you all probably know, is my medicine and what I love to bring forward. Which gamification is like, that's the gateway to it.
I think that's the best tip to roll off of, to move into something that's uncomfortable.
There you go.
Gamify it.
Just play with it.
Couldn't agree more. Just play with it.
Yeah. And that's the energy that comes with saying yes. That's the energy that really comes
like,
through.
all right, here we go, baby. Let's try it out.
Let's go do it. Let's go. Let's stay up to sunrise and watch the sunrise together. Like, it, I'm down. I haven't done that in years. Like, sure. Yes.
For sure.
All right.
Let's check it out.
And be ready for that. And that might be one of the most profound moments you have in your life. But wasn't it worth it?
Yes.
Isn't that what life's about? Especially if that's your North Star, is creating community and authentic connections. Isn't it worth it?
Absolutely beautiful. And it wouldn't make any sense for us to not give you options in our world as well. Join one of our challenges. Come to one of our retreats. If we're going to be in a city near you with one of our Ignite events, come to it. You're going to meet people. Even if you come alone, we create environments for people to connect. That's what we do with these experiences. So join our world. You will meet people that are in alignment because you're listening to what we're sharing. We infuse who we are into this community, so you're going to meet people like you.
Yes. And reach out to us. Comment on this. There are blocks. There are these possibilities for you. Ask questions to us because we're going to start doing Q&A episodes as well.
We are.
So ask questions around these things. If you feel like some of this didn't make sense or you feel like you want to know more about these communities, like we're going to have an app available soon. That's going to be our hub. It's going to be our location. It's not available yet, so we're not really talking about it, but it will be there. And so, start bringing these curiosities forward because curiosity creates community.
Hey,
am I right?
That is epic.
There you go.
So stay lit, crew.
Stay lit.